How about Golden State 7-1 after the win in Boston earlier tonight?
They're doing a great job. I mean, they got rid of that old GM, and they're just cruising.
Now, back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
All righty. All guests on 95.7 The Game appear on the River Islands guest line. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands? River Islands in Lathrop. Let's welcome in good friend Bob Myers, former president of basketball operations of the Golden State Warriors. And obviously he's just put together one of the best football teams in the NFL, the Washington Commanders, who had an unbelievable run. He's scheduled to go to the Florida Panthers and work with them next, and then another MLB team probably. What's up, Bob? How you doing?
Boy, what's up, guys? How's it going?
He's already started early, Bob. How you doing, man?
Oh man,
Hey,
I'm doing good.
Let me start here, and it's a week before the deadline, and it was about 2 weeks ago. There was a story in The Athletic, and it just mentioned that Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy were talking animatedly outside the Bridge Club after one of the losses, and my first thought was, can you take us through like what the week is like before the trading deadline? And I think about you guys with, you had you and Joe and Kirk, and you got to keep Steve in the loop, and you got, Larry Harris and other guys who were there. Like, how busy is it? How much communication are you in? And how frenzied is it?
It's pretty rough. I mean, it's much more than maybe the public realizes. This isn't like you woke up 2 days before the deadline and decided to make a trade. I can tell you about the Wiggins one we did. It's pretty exhausting from a standpoint of just running out a ton of ground balls. I mean, most of the stuff you discuss in detail, you don't end up doing, or you'll move forward, you'll get to the 10-yard line with another team, and they'll just pull out and say they got a better deal somewhere else, or they'll change the deal, or something will happen. A guy will sprain his ankle, the deal's off. Somebody's medicals will come back negatively. But every time you go through it, you learn something, and you learn about your peers. You learn who you can trust. You learn about your own group. Some people in the group are more aggressive, some more conservative. Ultimately, it's Joe's team. It's his call. And I accepted that. And that's what every organization operates under, is it's the owner's team. And more so than ever, owner's engagement, the prices of these teams, the values of these teams. If you guys bought a team, I'm sure you would have your say, as you should. So you're balancing all these things. The coach certainly has a way of expressing themselves. I was lucky with Steve. We had a good partnership. I knew kind of where he stood. But the truth is, there's a media component to it. There's a part about what are the fans going to think, what would the business ops think. That all matters because, it more so than ever. The power of how a deal is received has probably never been greater. Like to believe you put your head down and do what you think is best. But more organizations now, whether it's social media or the reaction, is discussed. It's actually discussed. Every year I saw that grow. But guys, it's not perfect. I mean, you just do the best you can. You try to placate all the powers in your organization. Clearly for me, you'd loop in staff, you'd loop in the key stakeholders, and then you do what you do. And sometimes it's nothing. But I remember we were doing a Iguodala's deal, and that was a free agent deal. It wasn't a trade deal. And I remember going through it and thinking to myself, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to get him, and no one cares. So to come on the radio the next day, for me to see you guys at the bar, I know you guys, I might say, guys, we had a lot of stuff going. And at the very end, I mean, couldn't get there. You might have some empathy, but the general public doesn't care. Right. They just say you didn't get a deal done. So you suck. And why didn't you do it? So there's part of it. But, you get paid a lot of money, and that's part of the deal. That's part of the job.
Bob, always good to talk to you. I got a million questions, my friend. I'll start with this one. So when the Warriors, decide, what, we need to make a move. We need some enhancements. If the team were to get hot in the current play, the Warriors have won 2 in a row. If does that change matters up top? Like, do you guys take that into account? Or once you decide we need to make a move, if the team were to get hot, does that change anything in regard to the thought process?
It does. It probably changes it more than it should. Just like you probably woke up today react. You more than Steiny, I'm sure. You know, your reaction.
Win of the year, Bob.
And Guru, I like that about you, by the way. I do. You need a guy like that in the group. But yeah, I mean, probably we all get that recency bias in us. We're human beings. You know, however, if you and I played basketball and you had a great day, you'd think you're great. And the day you suck, you think you suck. I mean, that's just who we are. You have to temper that, though. You have to look at the body of work and say, how real is this? Is this just a variance? Did we just make more threes and they missed more? Or what was this run? What did happen? Was the team we're playing healthy? Were they not? Are we healthy? Are we not? When we lost 3 in a row, what was going on there? And the good news is the trade deadline, you're 45, 50 games in sometimes. That's a big body of work. And so you have to look at all of it. And then you have to look at what are we trying to gain by this? So we made this deal. What do we hope happens here? Right? So we traded for this player. What should be our proper expectation? Because it can't just be we did something. That satiates some people for a week or two. But if it doesn't get the results you want, so let's say you're making a big deal and you're trading a first-round pick. Within the group, you got to say, what do we think this is going to do for us? We think this trade gets us from a play-in team to a team in the top 6. Or we think this trade gets us from the first round to the second round, or second round to the Western Conference Finals. The issue, though, what you're saying is you have to stop. You say you win 4 in a row before the deadline or win 3 in a row. You have to kind of push back on that and go, okay, that was just 3 games out of 48. Let's just pause a little bit. But it's hard to do that sometimes.
Yeah, and we're talking to Bob Myers, former president of basketball operations for the Golden State Warriors. Is it even a little trickier for the Warriors because they started 12-3, then they were, I don't know, 10-18 or 10-19, and I get it. It is only one game, but you see a game like last night, and to me, I thought to myself, well, I guess that's how they started 12-3 with those kind of games last night. So, you know, I'm just kind of wondering how you balance that, and when you see a game like last night, does it reduce the urgency a little bit?
Yeah, you know, it's hard because which team is it? Is it the team that lost to Toronto in the road, or is it that? And the truth is it's both. I wouldn't weight one any more than the other. Both things happened. So you have to find an answer for that. And the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? You're not that every night, but you're also not what happened in Toronto, or I'm taking any bad loss or any great win. If you were that, you'd have won 12 games if you were the team that lost the teams you think you're better than. If you were what you were last night, you have 28, 29 wins maybe. And I'm not saying they can't be that. I think they're closer to that than a team that's in the bottom. But it's consistency, getting healthy for sure. They got a big road stretch coming up. But, you know, it's very personal. I mean, nobody has – you, myself, and Guru could argue all day and night about how good is this team, right? And those would be subjective opinions. And you've both been around a long time. And I'm not saying I'd be more right than you, but then we'd have to look at the analytics and say, okay, based on how we've performed all in for the last however many games, who are we really? What should we expect? We've been very unlucky. We should have 5 more wins. If the numbers tell you that, that's important. But when you get into this emotional, we just won 3 in a row or we lost 3 in a row,
right,
that's where you kind of get in trouble. But that's what the group's for. But it's a fascinating time of year. The fan engagement is huge this time of year for agency. As a GM, it's one of the few times you can actually do something. But as far as big deals, Matt, I mean, you tell me, and you guys, either of you, what team, and this has nothing to do with the Warriors, in the history of the NBA, what team made a deal at the deadline that just changed everything for the rest of that season? Even when the Mavericks did Kyrie, who I think is a really good player, and they went to the Western Conference Finals the year after they traded for him. When they traded for him, it didn't work for those 30 games because basketball involves 5 guys and systems. I mean, even Schroeder, he's finally, I think, getting it a little bit after how many games? 20-something?
Yeah.
So that's the question you ask. Like, when you do a deal, what do you expect to happen this season? It's hard.
Bob, I'm the president of because I'm very inquisitive when it comes to Andrew Wiggins, because I know the skill set he possesses, and we saw it in 2022, and he's having a great January. But last night, he put his imprint on the game, and Bob, and you lived it. It's never been about talent, but how do the Warriors continue to get this Andrew Wiggins, like, How do you deal with that in regard to a player? Is it confidence? Do you have conversations, or he's just on an island by himself and he's got to kind of figure it out? But he's balling right now, and I want it to continue.
Yeah, man, it's all of that, right? I mean, is 50% confidence? Is 40%? How the situation Steve puts him in? Is it how his body's feeling? I mean, it's just like I love you. This is going to upset Steinmetz. It's just like when you go play your games. Why are you playing well? Why are you having a good week? Well, things are pretty good at home. I'm healthy. I was sick last week. I got a good team. My jumper's falling. I'm in a good moment in time. The best players are always there. And even when they're not there, they find a way to get there. So that's the question with Wiggins is like, okay, we all have ups and downs, but how do you raise that floor? And he's capable, right? He's certainly capable. And that's why you asked the question. With Wiggins, it's like, can we get this all the time? Why aren't we getting it all the time? But when you have it now, and he's had it for the last 5, 6, 7 games, how do you sustain it? And I can't. You could put a lot of players in that situation. Like, how do they maintain it for 30, 40, 50 games? He did it in 22, so we know he can. And the hope is for this team to go where they want to go. He's going to have to do that.
Bob Myers joining us on 95.7 The Game, former president of basketball operations for the Warriors. I mean, this is probably more of a coaching question for Steve Kerr, but it just happens all the time. It feels like if let's just assume, the Warriors are going pretty well. Let's say they play well in Phoenix, or they're playing pretty well. But now and I say but, maybe I shouldn't, but Draymond's coming back and Kuminga's coming back. Like, how does Steve even start to navigate? Who do their minutes get taken from, and if they're rusty coming back, then they're playing in front of a guy who's been contributing while they're gone. I mean, that would seem to be a pretty tricky challenge.
It is. I was watching last night Oklahoma City, even though they haven't had Chet Holmgren, and I was thinking, obviously you want him back, you want Kuminga and Draymond back, but there is an adjustment period that when a player that's going to play 30 minutes comes back that hasn't played in a month, 6 weeks like Kuminga, few weeks like Draymond, or a week or 10 days, whatever it'll be. Yeah. I mean, what happens? Because this team has had 28 different starting lineups. You don't want that. Kurt doesn't want that. Right. The players don't want that. Sure, the fans don't want that. So what happens then? Because maybe what we saw last night is the start of something. Well, then you're going to add guys to it that are better than the players that played last night on a talent level. How do you incorporate those guys? And that's part of coaching. Here's the point, though, Matt. How many times do you do that through the course of a season, right? That's where it gets tricky, because this team has already had to make quite a few changes, and this will just be another adjustment and another adjustment. Right. And the best teams want to limit those. You're not going to bench your best players and say, we're on a run, you're not playing. You're not doing that. So these guys are going to come back and play. But it's just another thing that you have to figure out during the course of an 82-game season. And as many of those as you can avoid, and consistency, and you had 3 starting lineups the whole year, that's the mark of what you'd like to have, but unfortunately it just hasn't gone that way this year.
Bob, you're my guy. I promise you I'm not spying on you, but I saw you talking to Lacob and you made him laugh. I know you can't tell us what you guys talked about, but can you share with us what you said to make Mr. Lacob laugh?
You can tell he doesn't hide his body language where he sits. And it wasn't the best start for the Warriors. And I just said, it's a long game, and it's going to be better. And he just wants it so badly. And I don't even remember. It wasn't anything that interesting. I just said, hey, I think I might have said you got the deadline coming up if you need to, something like that. But I think he was pretty happy by the end of the game, certainly. So he was, good win, by the way. I mean, I don't know if you guys, it sounds like you were there or you watched it, but that was a big, the energy at the start of the game for the Warriors wasn't there. Curry had a slow start. Oklahoma City was kind of imposing their will, and then it just shifted. And Wiggins was a big part of that. Podziemski's playing a lot better. Crowd got into it. That was, look, I don't watch all the games, but that had to be a top 5 win. Oh, yeah. I would believe for the season, maybe top 3.
Yeah, I think it's probably their biggest, considering kind of how they've been struggling.
Yeah. But look, I'm doing the game tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, you gotta this has been the issue, right?
Yeah.
You got to come out and do it again. You know, I didn't need that little. I don't need it.
That's Evan, Bob. That's your boy, Evan.
That's Evan.
Evan asked me to come on the show, and he's going to pull that type of stuff on me. You know, can you guys get a control your producer over there?
He's feeling pretty good about himself these days, I guess. Huh? Interesting. Yeah, they know they got to back it up. Hey, before we let you go, Bob, just give me. I know you still talk to a lot of people. We got a week till the deadline is here. We've heard Levine, Vucevic, Butler, a lot of names. How busy do you think it'll get? Do you think we're going to see, a lot, a little, or somewhere in between in terms of deals?
Oh man, you think just in general, the whole league?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think more than you think. I didn't think that a week ago, but now you got names dropping like Fox, all of a sudden out of nowhere. Levine's been batted around. Obviously, Butler's an everyday ongoing thing. This is
actually, you know what? Let me jump in here for a sec, because I just, and I'm not asking you to speak to specifics, but you said the Fox thing came out of nowhere, and I'm looking at that too. It's like, okay, the Kings are struggling, and Mike Brown gets fired. Yeah, they're playing real well, and then something comes out like that. I mean, the organization has already known the issue if there was one, right? Like, kind of why now? And you know what I mean? Like, where does something like that come from?
Well, it starts when he didn't sign his extension, which was the first indicator in the offseason. That would have been my first inkling of hey, why didn't you do that? Because I don't know the exact number, but you're turning down $100 million plus when you say no to that. And what human being does that in this day and age, or any day and age? So you say no to that, and you say, hang on, why aren't you signing that? Well, and they got a response. I'm sure Rich Paul and De'Aaron Fox gave a response.
Sure.
And it probably was something like, we don't know. And once you hear that, then what you're trying to do is convince them to bet on you. And I don't know the inner workings of the Kings. I don't know what happened. But for whatever transpired wasn't enough to convince him to stay. And maybe that was already there. Maybe that happened during the season. But it certainly was in the minds of Fox and Rich all before the season. So if I'm there and you're the GM, we're the assistant GM, we're like, hey, listen, we got to be prepared. Fox didn't sign this, so we got to know what's going on. So I just didn't know the timing, but maybe his agent's like, look, we didn't sign it, or he said, so just FYI, we're doing you a solid. You can do it now, or you can do it in the summer.
Right.
I'm guessing on that point, but that's what I would say.
Hey, Bob, last one from me, but I guess I could have sent you a personal text, because the last time we conversated off air, you were nursing an injury to get back, and we were going to ball, so I'll get an update on that. But you've been around the Commanders, and I got to tell you, this Jaden Daniels as a rookie is, to me, the real cool hand, Luke. Do you see, and this is random, do you see any Steph Curry in him, Bob?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you by the way, he carries a basketball all over the place. He has a basketball next to him in the locker. He's the only guy, I think. And he puts it literally, when he gets dressed for the games, he's got a basketball sitting next to him. He's a huge Kobe Bryant disciple. Like, he grew up in LA, loves Kobe, watches his old videos, tries to develop that mindset. Before the games, if you were watching him warm up on the field, he shoots a basketball.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't.
I have, actually, yeah.
I have not.
You have, Simon?
I have.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So I went up to him. I said, you got to keep your elbow in, man. I don't know what kind of shot that is. But he's I'll tell you why he reminds me of Steph. He's humble. I hooked up him and Curry when the Warriors were in D.C. for a Wizards game, and they met. So I put him on a thread with Steph and Jaden, and it was cool to see Jaden kind of, the way he responded to Curry was kind of like, I'm honored, or if you would have time. And it was really nice to see somebody, and Steph deserves that too, but a lot of young guys are like, hey man, I'll be here at this time. But the way he communicated with Curry was very like a respectful way.
Right.
And then the thing that is similar is they both are unbelievable competitors, but they laugh and they have fun doing it. So if you watch Jaden during a game, he's talking to the edge rusher. He's laughing. A guy will drill him, and he'll get up and pat him on the helmet, and he's always talking to the other team, and he's laughing. And I find it so rare. I always wished I was a guy. I think Magic Johnson was one of the first ones that I remember loving the game and just expressing that. Steph does that too.
Yeah.
That wasn't Michael Jordan. That wasn't Kobe Bryant necessarily, but that's what I see with Jaden and Steph, this very deep competitiveness, but they enjoy it. And obviously the talent is the talent. So you got to have that too. But,
Wow.
No, he's a good kid. Great
A
kid.
basketball
Great
study.
to
I didn't
hear.
know you knew that.
I know what Bob's talking about
Wow.
in terms of the pregame. Hey, Bob, thank you so
You're the
much
man.
as always, man.
Yep.
I guess
Yep.
you'll be in town. You're in town now because you're doing tomorrow's game
Yep.
too. All right.
Yeah, man. Hey, can I say one thing to you guys?
Yeah.
Take your time.
You guys, I know you guys have been doing it for a while. What you guys have is really cool. You're yin and yang. I hope you know that. I know you mess with each other sometimes, but it's pretty amazing what you guys have done, and your personalities are perfect for each other, and you have a great show. So I hope you.
Bob, you're
I
the
just want to tell you that from my benefit.
Hey, I'll say
Thanks,
this.
Bob.
I said that
Appreciate
was
it.
my last thing. This is a true story. I'm watching with Mia, the wife. She goes, that guy has a gray head of hair. How old is he? And she Googled you. I said, quit stalking her, but she gave you a compliment.
There you go.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, fellas.
All right, Bob.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Wow.
Bob Myers,
The
former
man.
president of basketball operations, Golden State Warriors, now working for ESPN. He consults for the Washington Commanders, and he's a big boy.
Yeah.